I'm going to hand over to Olaf Furniss, who some of you might know from Born to Be Wide, but he's also one of the secret shady characters that live around the world who grade applications from bands for South by Southwest. So if we could get his presentation up, and I'll pass over to Olaf.
Okay, yeah, I might not be doing it this year. That's not been confirmed because I've now been outed. But yeah, suffice to say, I did something like 500 South by Southwest applications, and it's basically, I'll go through the process in a minute, tell you how I go about it, what I look for. But first, I think you'll just to recap on some of the things that Una touched upon. How many of you here have a full-time manager? I mean, someone who's a professional music manager rather than a mate just doing it because they like your music. Right. How many of you are signed to a label like a major or a well-respected independent? Right. Any of you got a well-connected booking agent? Okay. Could you have the first slide, please? Basically, these are really important questions. And when I say more money than sense and a hardcore Protestant work ethic, unless you have either of those, you really might as well go back to the drawing board and think about when you should apply, because I've seen a lot of bands go over there and you Google them 2 years later, you can't even get any press on them. So you want to think about when you actually apply for the event. So can you have the next slide? And then the next one. So who does the grading? Well, except for myself, I don't actually know who else does the gradings. They are literally scattered around the world. I've recognized one or two. There was one guy that lives in Texas and always gives really good grades to Texas bands. But apart from that, I'm not really very sure. What I do know is that you get paid $1 an application. That's less than minimum wage in this country. It's less than minimum wage in the States if you're working as a waitress. So that is something to keep in mind with your application. Next slide, please. So how is applications graded? Well, each band applies via Sonic Bids these days. That means you can upload your pictures, your music. It's very important to upload your music. I say this because lots of bands forget. Biographies, that's another important thing, and I'll come to that in a minute. The way it works is that each application is graded by 2 judges, and they give it a mark out of 10. They also have an option to recommend an act for consideration by this even more secretive cabal right at the top. They sit in a kind of dark room and kind of do whatever they do, but they're the ones that decide. They'll take the two original judgments by mere underlings such as myself, and then they'll have the final say. The way it works is that applications pop up randomly, so once I've submitted a grading, something else will pop up. That could be from anywhere in the world. So here's one of the things to avoid. Avoid a biography that's full of pretentious pish. I hate it. And for some reason, Brooklyn bands are the worst offenders when it comes to this. I don't need your life story, a huge autobiography. Again, some people think this is really important. I'm not interested, right? I don't mean to sound like an arrogant prick here, but it's when you're getting paid $1 an hour. And I'm one of the judges that actually spends time listening to the music, right? I will listen to 3 songs if I think a band's worthwhile. Even if I don't think they're worthwhile, I'll listen to at least 2 in full. It's important. Detailed descriptions of the songs, I don't need it. I don't need to know what you were doing. So what I do look for, an act with a fan base. There's no point in going all the way to the States if no one's heard of you in your own town or in your own city, even in your own country. An act with a live experience, a long live experience, is good, and I would include festivals in that. In a way, if you've not, there will always be exceptions, but generally speaking, say if you're from Scotland, if you've not done Go North, Tea Break, the Solace Stage at Wicker Man, or any of the other different newcomer opportunities that Scotland offers, what sense is there for you to go to the other side of the world? The same applies for media exposure. Now, I don't necessarily mean that you need to have like a three-page interview in NME or something like that, but I would kind of expect you to have some kind of media exposure. I think that it doesn't necessarily need to be in Scotland. If you're doing well as a Scottish act in Germany and you've got your fan base there, that's fine. You've actually, it's a good sign because you've actually got out of your own country, but you have got that media exposure. I'd also look for some sort of evidence of initiative, the bands that can make their own opportunities rather than sitting back and someone doing it for them. I don't mean you need to have a manager or a record label behind you, because that's absolutely dyed in wool, or basically cast in stone, sorry. I mean it because, with all due respect, most bands I know can't be asked doing that shit. So it's not really gonna happen. So, you know, if you've released a record and you've made it yourself and you've done well with it, say like the Fence Collective guys, or you've organised your own tour like the Merso guys have, like many other bands have, then that's good. I'd also be looking for someone to have something to promote. Next slide, sorry. There's no point in you going out there if you haven't done anything for 2 years and you've not got a record coming out. It's a waste of time. You know, if you're looking to make that move into the States and you really have done well here, I mean, I'd like to say that Frightened Rabbit and Franz Ferdinand will always come up in South by Southwest discussions. Frightened Rabbit had already toured the US, to the best of my knowledge, and Fat Cat had done some really good preparatory work. Franz Ferdinand, they'd sold 80,000 albums through Domino US.